everyone, my name is Sarah Cahill and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought it would be a fun idea for some reason to make myself feel bad and talk about all of the progress that I'm not making on any of my projects right now, because it's been 3.5 months now since the start of the year and I had big plans that are very slowly going down the toilet. So I just want to sort of catch up and talk about where I am with my multiple projects and sort of what I need to plan to do for the future in order to catch up with, you know, my goals for the year. Can you hear the children? This is what I have to deal with every day. I currently have 6 active projects that I am supposed to be working on this year. One of them is brand new, which I hadn't planned for 2022. It just popped up in January, unfortunately. A couple of them I haven't actually started yet this year, but there is still time. They do technically have a hierarchy of importance, so I will talk about them from the lowest of importance in my head, I guess, to what I guess would be the highest of importance, despite the fact that I've not worked on anything in like 2 months. The first is the only project that does not have an official name. It is entitled Project Theft. It is a YA urban fantasy. I wrote the first... Hello? Oh, where was I? Project Theft is a YA urban fantasy. I first wrote it, I believe, in 2020 for NaNoWriMo, which is the same month that I wrote Abingdon House book number 1. In it, we follow a teenager called Lane whose little brother goes missing, and she follows her magic to a hidden street that she cannot escape from, and she has to team up with a bunch of criminals in order to rescue her brother. Unknowingly, she's being used by these criminals to also achieve one of their goals, is the best I can explain it. It's supposed to be a trilogy. I had shelved Project Theft in 2021 because I just couldn't work on it, but for some reason my head kept on thinking during the end of 2021 it's a really good story. It's a really good trilogy and I like how the story progresses and the characters progress, and I want to try and work on it more in 2022. Obviously my first steps for Project Theft is going to be do I want to reread the whole thing? I'm really in the stages of having to reread it in order to know what I need to change and everything like that. It has gone through an alpha read and I do have a few notes on the story itself. I'm not sure I had many alpha readers and I'm not sure they finished. I think one of them finished and one of them didn't, as far as I remember. But my official next step for Project Theft would be rereading it and writing my own notes in regards to how I need to replot and rework the first book. But also what I think I need to do is take it and replot the entire series and then work on book number 1. Perhaps. I don't know what way I want to go around it. Let me know which do you think is the smartest thing to do. Rewrite book 1 first or do the entire series first. I can work both ways. They both don't work for me. So either or, it's fine and we'll get somewhere. The next project on my list is Beneath the Hawthorn Lies, which is another YA fantasy where Kinley, a fairy, discovers that she's not actually a fairy. She is in fact a human changeling and is going to be sacrificed to her fairy queen in order for the queen to live a longer life. So she escapes to the human world and sort of has to try and figure out a plan to kill the queen in order to save the rest of her changeling friends. This one was, I can't even remember when I wrote this one. No. I wrote this book for Camp NaNoWriMo. I want to say 2019 or 2020. It was my 70,000 words in 7 days story, which I 100% pantsed the entire thing, which was a very fun experiment that I really don't want to do again. I've since then given it a half revision, so on like draft 1.5 at the moment. I say 1.5 because I didn't really change much of the story from draft 1 to draft 1.5, but for draft 1.5 to draft 2, it's going to need a bit more of a change. Again, because I got some alpha readers in who made some very good points about the story itself, which let's take into account. So I have worked on this so far this year. I haven't worked on it much. I basically was planning to work on the characters before I reread my alpha reader critique and was like, oh, the characters are not the problem. It is mostly just the plot that is the problem. So I have done sort of like a free write outline of what I want the plot to be and what needs to change in order to make it more interesting. The next steps I would need to take with Beneath the Hawthorn Lies is taking that free write outline and, you know, applying it to a proper outlining method. Save the Cat, probably K.M. Whalen's 3-act method, possibly maybe even Katie Tastic's 3-act 9-block 27 chapter method. We'll see how much detail I feel will need adding to my free write outline, or where the weaknesses in the outline are, and then I'll decide on which outlining method to use depending on how much help I think I need to figure out all of the little bits in between. I also feel I need to do a lot more research regarding fairy lore, because obviously fairies, I need information on the fairies. Also, the book is set in a fictional village in Ireland, so we need lots of Irish lore going around, and that's not something that needs to happen, I guess, for draft 2. Let's focus on one thing first, Sarah. Okay, let's focus on the plot first and make sure that is solid before we go adding things. But I do need to add more fairy encounters and, you know, mischievous fairy things for the plot. So we do need to go and see what needs to be added in for tension and things, because the book is a little bit slow at the moment. I think it's slow because the point I sort of wanted to try and get across was when Kinley goes from fairy world, which is always strict rules and strict schedules and stuff that she doesn't like, to the human world, is it's such a vast difference from fast-paced, structured fairy to sort of like, you can do whatever the hell you want, I don't care, sort of life in the human world. And that sort of slowed the story down a little bit while I explored Kinley exploring life as a human. But yeah, we need some things there that's going to ramp up to the tension. We need to give her sort of more motivation. Her original motivation was she wanted to find her fairy counterpart in the human world. Because if she was stolen as a human in the human world, obviously a fairy would replace her and live as a human. So that was the original motivation. In the first drafts, that never actually went anywhere at all. Like, it was at the back of her mind. But going forward into draft 2, she needs a stronger motivation to sort of push her through the book. So that's where we've changed it to, you know, kill the queen, which she didn't know about all of this sacrificing stuff in the first draft until like near the end of the book, where something terrible happens. But she knows now, so that is you know, a stronger motivation for her to do what she is going to do. I think I've got the firm foundations there for a good story with good character motivation. It just does need officially outlining before I guess I can officially start writing the second draft. Number 3, remember we're going from the bottom to the top. Number 3 is actually the project that I'm currently working on for Camp NaNoWriMo. It is They Lead the Hunt, which is my witchy YA/NA novel. The reason this is so low on the list, like below the majority of the things, despite the fact I'm currently working on it and not anything else, is because it is the new project that I just whimsically decided to do this year, despite the fact I said I was not going to write anything new this year, which is exactly what I said last year, and then I wrote Abingdon House. It is about a group of witches whose mentor and guardian goes missing. They have to try and find her, and while they do so, they get embroiled in prophecies and witchy politics and witches burning and things like that. And the reason it's so low on the list is because it's not been written. It's being partly written now to get my word count up for camp. But because it's sort of like I guess you'd call it like a palette cleanser project, it's drafting. Whereas most of the things that I'm working on this year are revision, a lot of outlining, a lot of re-outlining, which is very draining because it's a lot of thought that you have to put into actually sort of putting everything into place. This is drafting, so it's a palette cleanser to sort of just make me feel like I have actually put effort into doing something rather than just sitting there outlining. It gives the impression that I've worked more and that I've procrastinated less because it's physically writing a first draft. I don't really have a deadline for finishing it. I'm just writing it for camp because it's camp. I need a word count, and then I'll get to it whenever I get to it throughout the year, in between everything else that I have to work on. I'm struggling a lot with it at the moment. I don't know why. I do know why. It's because I haven't outlined it as well as I thought I outlined it, which sucks because I actually thought I outlined it rather well. But I think I basic outlined it rather well, and then where I just got demotivated and procrastinated and didn't actually fully 100% outline each scene for the entirety of the novel before I started writing it, the weird way that I write my first drafts. This is where I haven't input all of the specific details for all of the scenes, and now because I'm making it up on the fly, I'm struggling and things now don't make sense. I mean, I've already got to rewrite an entire scene because I think when I first started writing it, I ended up inputting all of this information that after I'd finished writing it, I was like, they can't learn this right now. They have to learn this later. Like, this is going to give away the entire plot twist with what I've just written here. The reader's going to clue into what this plot twist is going to be, and they're going to guess it. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's like blatantly obvious what this plot twist is going to be based on what I've written in the scene. So that's just going to have to change 100% as it is. And yeah, because I haven't gone into depth in any of the scenes and I'm making up on the fly, it feels like it doesn't make sense. So there's me not being able to plan properly again, as always. Next on my list is Thrice a Broken Oath, which is my YA not urban fantasy, sort of like a high fantasy, I guess, not quite Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings level, but it's set in a world that is not our own, and it follows Noah, who is the only person in his family who was born without magic, and his attempt to get magic, in which a spell screws up and he gets bonded to a priestess. The bond is fatal, so he and the priestess have to go and try and find the counterspell, which apparently does not exist, and chaos basically ensues. This book is basically finished. It's on its third draft. It is currently in the query trenches, and I say currently in the query trenches. It's in the query trenches, but it will not be queried no more, because basically I'm at the end of where I can reach with that particular novel, and with the set of agents and literary agencies that I had, you know, on my list to send this out to. So now that we've got you know, fails for it, I'm gonna take it back, and while I'm gonna keep everything that I've already sent off, I'm not like gonna unsubmit what I've already submitted and who I've submitted to. I'm gonna sort of stop sending it off to more people now, and I feel it needs a revision pass to make it pop a little bit more, sort of based on, not based on feedback, because really didn't get much feedback, but based on, you know, they don't want to read past the first 50 or so pages, so I need to make those first 50 or so pages a bit more intriguing, at least, in order to, you know, in the future get more people wanting to know what happens next, and sort of add some more details for plot, character, motivation and stakes, which are a little bit low. I already have a lot of ideas on how I want to sort of alter the story, thanks to some fantastic beta readers who beta read it at the beginning of the year. So when I'm going to get around to this, I have absolutely no idea. I think what I might want to do is get the manuscript printed off and do a proper revision pass on it with the manuscript in hand, with my highlighters and my post-it notes and things like that, and sort of, you know, put actual effort into changing the story, as opposed to the half effort I've put into changing all the rest of the stories that I have at the moment. Number 2 on my list is OSASAOIT, aka Project Mystic. No, I am still not giving away the title. I still don't know why. Don't ask. OSASAOIT is yet another YA urban, it's not even an urban fantasy, it's a YA paranormal fantasy, I guess, set in a fictional seaside town in England, where a fake psychic has a real vision and sees the world end, and she and a ragtag team of other paranormal powered people have to, you know, work together to stop the end of the world. I just really do suck at explaining my stories, don't I? This was written over a few months last year. I think I started it in camp in April as a sort of palate cleanser to writing Abingdon #2, and then continued writing it over the next couple of months. So it's one of the first stories that I've written that hasn't been written in a very short span of time with a massive deadline, where usually I write during camp and during NaNoWriMo, and that will be my finished draft. I took my time with this one. The quality of the writing improved, the story did not improve, so we're sort of halfway to what I need it to be. So it's on a 0 draft. I'm currently rewriting it for its first draft. I'm on scene 6 or 7 at the moment. I do need to get back into it. Most of the issues I had with it were the villain was very flat, was one-dimensional. There's a lot of things that I didn't explain in the story itself, which is stuff that I personally know, like villains' backstories and motivation and reasons for things. I just didn't put them in the novel because I was like, I know this, and didn't think about the fact that the reader's not going to know this. So I am inputting a lot more of the villain backstory, a lot more motivation on their end. I'm sort of trying to simplify the plot a little bit as to who or when, where, why things are happening, to make it make a little bit more sense, because I think I overcomplicated it, because I have a big problem with overcomplicating my plots. Big time. Every single plot is way more complicated than it needs to be. And I think I need to focus a little bit more on maybe not the character motivations, but the character arcs throughout the book, and fleshing out certain scenes, switching some POVs around, so, you know, the correct POV is for a correct event, that I'm not just having to relay information that happened because I was in the wrong person's POV at the time. It's not a lot to move and shuffle around. It's not a lot that I need to add to it. It's just everything that I need to sort of shift and bring more detail to. So I've already got my notes that I really did a lot of work rereading it and making notes for this project. And yeah, I've just got to finish writing this first draft, and then I can send that back off to alpha readers, beta readers, I guess, and work on it from there. And my number 1 project that I have to work on this year is, of course, the Abingdon House series. Abingdon House is my 5-book middle grade magical realism series, in which the first book is fine and the rest of the series is trash. Abingdon House follows Hazel Cooper, who finds out she's the heir to one of the 5 great magical houses in the city. And book 1, at least, follows her as she completes 3 magical trials in order to prove her worth and claim her seat as the head of Abingdon House. And the rest of the series, and this is the first time I'm ever saying this, follows Hazel as she tries to protect her house and the rest of the houses from forces who wish to see them fall, basically. I wrote the entire series last year because I wanted the entire series written before I started revising everything, so I knew what I needed to foreshadow and when, and sort of spin the details throughout the entire book. And book 2 is the most trash. Book 3 is okay. Book 4 is okay. Book 5 is weird. So can I actually remember where I've left off with Abingdon House this year? I don't actually remember. I have done quite a bit of work on the series outline. At the moment, I have series outlined the entire series with Save the Cat, as in this is all of the bits that need to happen as a whole in the series. So we have the series midpoint, we have the series Dark Night of the Soul, we have the series Bad Guys Close In, etc, etc. And I have done a very basic Save the Cat outline for book 2, book 3, book 4, and book 5. Oh, okay, I've done a basic outline for all of the books. There we go. Okay, so now that I've done a basic outline for all of the books, my next step is to go back to book 2 and do an in-depth outline, scene by scene outline for book number 2. Now, whether I want to do a detailed scene by scene for books 2, 3, 4 and 5 and then start rewriting book 2, or whether I want to do a detailed outline for book 2 and then write book 2, and then do a detailed outline for book 3 and then write book 3. I don't know which one I want to do yet. It will depend on how bothered I am to put work into this, which is always my issue. I'm thinking I will detail outline book 2 and then start rewriting book 2. And then based on everything that's in book 2, then detail outline book 3 and then write book 3, etc, etc. I think that's the way that I'm going to go with it, because then I can sort of, I don't know, because I'll outline something and I'll detail outline it, but then as I'm writing it, other things may pop up, other things might change. So I don't want to have to detail outline all for 4 of these last books and then write book 2 and then change something in book 2 as I'm writing it. That will then affect how I've outlined the rest of the books. I also want to send Abingdon House book number 1 off for a beta reader pass, like a very detailed, very critiqued, very harsh beta reader pass. Because while I think the story and everything is okay, and I haven't really received any negative feedback on it, I have received just very basic feedback on it, and I think I need something a little bit more critical to sort of open my eyes to what actually needs improving in the book, because it's a good book, but it's not the best it can be right now. I know I'm missing some magical elements in it, but that's my plan for Abingdon House. So that is where I am with all of my projects at the moment, and the next steps that I need to take in order to complete all of the things that I need to complete with them. Obviously this month is Camp NaNoWriMo, so I will be working on They Lead the Hunt. I've written about 5,000 words for it so far, only another 5,000 words and I would have finished the 10k that I need. And then I don't know what I'm going to do for May. I may do a little bit, I don't know what I'm going to do for May. I don't want to say anything and then not do it, because I've been saying I'll do stuff and then not do it. Probably Abingdon House and a little bit of OSASAOIT. Maybe I'll start working on Thrice, a Broken Oath. We'll see how I feel, what I want to work on, what intrigues me the most. If you want to read excerpts of any of these novels that I've mentioned, except for Project Theft because it's not on there, you can visit my author website, sarahcahillwrites.com. There is a link down below for it. Let me know down in the comments below what your projects are that you are working on this year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Good thoughts and happy writing.